Overcoming setbacks and the motivation cycle. So here's the concept that we're talking about today. Growth isn't a straight line. There will be moments when old habits, when doubts, and when fears resurface, but a setback doesn't mean failure. And we all naturally have these slips and surges in everything we do. So your alter ego isn't here to make you perfect. It's here to help you navigate moments differently. And the key to learning is course correcting quickly rather than letting a small slip turn into a full-blown spiral. So today I want to talk about the motivation cycle, the peaks and valleys that it takes along your journey. So let's use the 6 week stick it to self-sabotage challenge here as an example to understand this motivational cycle even better. Here at the height, we have motivation, and this is our linear measure of time down here. So the first stage that we start in the motivation cycle is called the hype. And the hype is those pre-start jitters when you feel uncertain, but you're excited. And once you begin, your motivation skyrockets. So you start right here, you're uncertain, excited, and you're working your way up because your motivation is starting to skyrocket. You're in the hype. This is before we even started the challenge, but you're signing up for it. You're uncertain, but you were excited to get started. And then comes the honeymoon phase up here. And that is when you are crushing it. Everything feels easy. You can't believe that you didn't start this sooner. This would be week 1 and week 2 of the challenge when you're feeling really motivated. You're learning good information. You're starting to see the big picture here. And then at the end of the honeymoon cycle comes the plummet. And in the plummet, motivation dips, reality sets in, things start to feel a little bit harder. This was harder than I expected it to be. And we're heading back down to a motivational low here. And this might have been week 3 for you when you learn that self-compassion is really hard. It's not something that came natural to you. And so you're struggling here in the plummet of, can I really do this? Motivation starts to dip. And then you hit the lapse. And in the lapse, this is when you hit a setback and the self-doubt creeps in. And this spot right here, the lapse, this is when most people quit, honestly. But this here is also your biggest opportunity to grow, right? Because you have the opportunity to go back up in motivation here. And these are natural cycles that we don't necessarily control. To finish out the cycle, we hit the surges and then the slips, the surges and the slips. And this is where motivation isn't constant, right? It comes in waves. We get a wave of good motivation for a week, and then we feel unmotivated for a week. And then we have a lot of motivation for a day or two, and then maybe for another week, we're not feeling so motivated. On the motivational journey, you have to expect ups and downs, but not let these slips define you. A surge is always around the corner from a slip. I want to give you some words of wisdom around the motivational cycle. Everything, everything is temporary. Everything, both in the highs and in the lows. Motivation's going to ebb and it's going to flow, just like the waves in the ocean. So when you're riding a high, embrace that momentum and push forward. And when you find yourself in a slip, don't panic. Just ride the wave. The setback isn't permanent. The slip isn't permanent. And neither is the feeling of being stuck. This moment will pass, and it will pass with a surge on its way. So instead of resisting, trust that the surge is coming. The key to lasting success isn't staying motivated 24/7. It's learning how to move with this cycle rather than fight against it. So when things feel hard, remind yourself this is just temporary. Keep showing up, keep taking small steps, and soon enough, you'll catch that next wave of a surge going forward. And also remember, slips don't erase progress. They don't. Every step you take, even after a setback, strengthens your foundation for growth. It strengthens your ability to hop back up into that surge again. So stay patient, stay persistent, and trust that every low point is setting you up for your next big breakthrough. So after talking about the motivational cycle, let's talk about what to do when doubt creeps in. Draw on all the wonderful, amazing parts of this program and use them to your advantage. When old habits or self-sabotaging thoughts come up, or even behaviors, here's how to handle them. Recognize the enemy persona, your old identity, that enemy persona that you created. It still might be trying to pull you back into hesitation, into overthinking or self-doubt. Instead of resisting it or beating yourself up, simply notice that it's there. Detach from the setback. You are not your old habits. Reframe the moment. Instead of, I failed and I always do this, reframe this as this is just an old pattern showing up. You can also use the tool of reactivating your reset routine. Instead of dwelling on the mistake, shift into action mode. And we'll talk a little bit more about this in a second. And then also step back into your alter ego. Your alter ego already knows how to handle this situation. Ask yourself, what would my alter ego do right now? So let's talk about Emily's setback and her reset routine and how she can use all of these different areas to hop back on the train after a setback. So let's look how this plays out in real life, in Emily's life. The scenario here is that Emily has been stepping into Viva Steel, her confident alter ego, when she's preparing for auditions. And she's been showing up differently, submitting auditions without hesitation and feeling proud of her progress. But one day, she has a really rough morning and she starts doubting herself before recording a self-tape. And then she gets stuck in this spiral. She re-records it too many times. She's overthinking every line, and suddenly she finds herself avoiding the submission altogether. And she feels like she is stuck right back where she started. So what happens next? She recognizes her enemy persona. Her old self, the hesitator, says, you should just wait and submit later when it's perfect. Or the hesitator says, if you don't get this role, maybe you're just not talented enough. So now here's how Emily uses her reset routine. She notices a slip but doesn't spiral. She detaches from the setback, and instead she follows these steps. She recognizes the enemy persona. Oh, the hesitator's just showing up again. She reframes the thought. Instead of, I'm failing again, this is just a moment of doubt. It's not who I am. She detaches from the setback. And then she resets with a small win. Instead of trying to make the audition perfect, Emily says, Viva Steel submits auditions with confidence, and I'm going to submit this one and move on. And she sets a 5-minute timer and submits her self-tape without overthinking. And then finally, she physically flips the switch and she grabs her artifact and she steps back into her alter ego and she hits send. And this signals to her brain that she stepped back into her alter ego. Now, instead of letting one rough morning derail her confidence, she quickly resets and she just keeps moving. So now you are in a major slip. You have tried all these tools and you still feel completely stuck in a slip where nothing seems to be working and you're unsure how to move forward. Don't panic. Your progress isn't lost. Sometimes the best thing that we can do is shift our mindset and take a different approach. So here's your last resort strategy based on the motivation cycle to help you break free, along with a real life example from Emily. You can embrace the temporary nature of life. Emily just had a rough audition. She stumbled over lines, and afterwards, she felt this really familiar spiral creep in. Self-doubt and frustration, and that nagging thought that maybe she wasn't cut out for this. But instead of letting that moment define her, she pauses and reminds herself, this is temporary. She thinks back to a time when she absolutely nailed an audition. The energy, the flow, the confidence. And that feeling wasn't permanent either. But she'd experienced it, which means she could experience it again. Instead of labeling herself as a failure, she reframes her mindset in the moment. This is just one audition, not a reflection of my talent or my future. She takes a deep breath, she shakes it off, and she decides that her next audition will be a fresh opportunity. By embracing this last resort mindset tool, that both the successes and the setbacks are fleeting, Emily stopped attaching her worth to every single moment. She learned to celebrate the wins when they came and ride the waves of difficulty, knowing that no feeling, good or bad, will last forever. So here's your final thoughts for the day, my friends. Your alter ego knows how to handle the situation. Progress isn't linear. There will be times when old patterns, when old fears, and when old doubts reappear. But setbacks isn't a sign of failure. They're simply just part of the journey. Ups and downs are natural in transformation. Your alter ego isn't about perfection, it's about responding to challenges in a new way. The real power lies in how quickly you can reset and move forward, rather than letting one small misstep derail your progress for good. Embracing the mindset that everything is temporary is incredibly powerful. It allows you to fully step into the highs, knowing that they won't last forever, so you can soak in the moment and appreciate it fully. And at the same time, it reminds you that the lows are fleeting too. No challenge, no setback, and no moment of doubt is permanent. This perspective, it keeps you grounded, it keeps you resilient, and it keeps you able to ride the waves of life with confidence, knowing that every phase, good or bad, is just a moment in time. And your activity today is the graduation letter. And the graduation letter has two parts. Part one is you writing a letter to your old self. And I have a few reflection prompts for you. It's basically writing a letter to the old version of you, thanking you for protecting you in the best way that it knew how it could back then. And then the second part of this is writing a letter to you from your alter ego, helping you guide you and encourage you in this whole process as you move forward.